Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be talking about Blair White today, because just a few days ago, she put out a brand new video where she talks about herself and features herself debating, and I quote, 20 unhinged leftists. Blair White is, of course, one of the most evil grifters out there, pure evil, and a blatant liar. Now, if you're a fan of hers, you might already be bristling up at those words, but let me back it up a little bit. One of my least favorite things about Blair White is how openly she will lie. And there have been many cases where she's had to do tearful apologies about where she, tries to make up for the fact that she lied about someone and got called out. And the call out was enough that she actually had to respond and had to own up to it. She has done this before, but there are many cases where she was never caught, where she was never forced to do a tearful apology. And maybe the worst example of this is when Blair White wanted to debunk a TikToker claiming that trans women could have periods, that they could, or not periods, no, that trans women could have cervical cancer, and that they needed to get pap smears. Of course, or pap whatever checks, whatever they're called. Pap smears, is that the term? I don't know, it's a weird word. Anyway, Blair White wanted to make this idea out to be something ridiculous and delusional. So she brought up a page from the Canadian Cancer Society talking about whether or not trans women should get checks for cervical cancer. And what she shows is just the first couple lines, where it's like the opening of the page, where it says, if you're a trans woman and you've thought about getting checked for cervical cancer, it might obviously seem ridiculous. She cuts it off there, but if you read the next line, it goes on to say, but if you've had bottom surgery, it is very important that you get regularly checked for cervical cancer. It has been known to occur in the neocervix in women who have gotten bottom surgery, trans women who've gotten bottom surgery. This is something that Blair White deliberately left out and then proceeded to argue the opposite to be true while citing a source that disagrees with her. This is blatantly harmful medical misinformation. You cannot tell your massive trans audience that they shouldn't get checked for cervical cancer just so you can get an own on a TikToker. That is evil. There's nothing anyone can tell me that'll convince me that is not evil. But we've got some more Blair White evil to dive into today, so if you end up enjoying, leave a like down below, subscribe if you're new here, and drop a comment if you want to support the video a little extra. If you don't know what to say, just say Xander in my hall. It really does help a lot, and I appreciate it. Without any further ado, guys, let's get right into the video. Bam.
But you felt it.
Felt what?
You're fake.
I felt what?
You're fake.
I'm fake?
You're fake.
The thing is, James thinks he knows more about trans rights than you do.
That's absolutely
that
not
And he
true.
doesn't. And he doesn't.
I've
And no
never
matter
said
how
that.
much,
That's
you know,
not
he
true.
doesn't.
I think you're the one that said that I was erasing you as trans. I am. Like, you're not trans. Like, there's a medical definition of being a transsexual.
I'm gonna stop you. Jamie, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
Do you feel like talking? You don't have to. Okay.
You guys killed 30 people in the COVID 2020 riots. Yeah. Anyways, next topic. We have
Like, that's Blair White being proud of the fact that, like, the moderators of the debate had to go, like, are you okay? Like, because Blair's, like, blatantly saying, you are not trans, you are not valid to this person repeatedly, and the hosts of the debate know that there is a undeniable scientific consensus that denying trans people's identities is what causes their elevated suicide rates and elevated rates of depression. And so, with the moderators not playing into the delusions of Blair White, they asked if she was okay, or if they were okay. And Blair White, I guess, decided to feature that as like, look how hard I owned them. Mind you, Blair White literally had to flee Texas to California, the state she dreads and calls evil in her videos, because Texas has actually started practicing what she preaches, and she does not want any part of it, but when she's on the receiving end of the state law.
we say all violence is wrong. Please. Someone get a Xanax for her.
Oh, keep it cute, girl. Keep it real cute.
Like me, and you.
What's so funny is, as a straight guy, it's just like, it's too, like, as a straight guy, it's two gay people fighting, it's two trans people fighting, two LGBT people fighting, and it's like, I can just feel the lack of sincerity from Blair White. The person arguing with her is emanating a sincerity that's obvious in how they're not really able to form their sentences and arguments all that coherently and all that well, because they're so emotional, because they're so sincere. They actually believe in what they're saying. While Blair White is a trans woman who knows everything she uses her platform to spread and say is bullshit, and actively harms trans people like herself, and despite that, she wants to farm engagement off of coming off as like the epic owner of trans people in debates. And so she does this very performative presentation here that, at least for me, I immediately clock as disingenuous and performative.
You occasionally think, wow, I would love some extra money right now, but you refuse to actually work for it. Then listen up, because I have the perfect thing for you, and it's genuinely awesome.
All right, I don't care about our sponsor.
My choice
I
to
don't care
go
about
to the
the
men's
shilling.
restroom.
You don't know anything about how war is waged, okay? You're not a military expert. I doubt you even listen to military experts talk about this kind of shit. Like, yeah, being in infantry is what she's describing here. Like when she says boots in the ground, she's talking about, like, Marine snipers, infantry, like Army infantry, what's that one unit that, like, gets onto site and immediately starts constructing outposts? They're called, like, the honeybees or something. Yeah, like, obviously that really hard, heavy intensity labor is probably going to be pretty difficult for a lot of trans people, but this ban was not done for the sake of trans people. Trans people were voluntarily joining the military and doing so to serve their country and get the benefits that you gain from serving your country on the side, right? And that opportunity has been taken from them. It was a punishment for trans people being trans, not done in any way whatsoever for their benefit. Oh yeah, the sea bees, not the honeybees, my bad. Yeah. Like, obviously there are some cases where maybe a trans woman might not be super fit to lift heavy things or whatever. Ironically, though, Blair would use the exact opposite argument when making the case that trans women shouldn't be allowed to compete against cis women in sports, which I find ironic. Mind you, trans men would probably have kind of an advantage in certain situations in the military, because I know that testosterone replacement therapy for trans men is not the same as, like, TRT that, like, bodybuilders get, but it's gotta be similar, right? Like, you have to imagine that trans dudes on TRT, if they start working out and bulking, are gonna start gaining muscle at a faster rate than a cis guy would doing the same thing. Because they are actively getting a boost of, like, the hormone that does that, you know? So, like, once again, we're leaving out trans men from the discussion. Accommodating. The amount of positions it offers are wide and numerous, and on top of that, they are more often than not, like, they're not desperate for recruits, but they're always acting like they are. Military recruiters, I'm pretty sure, get, like, a commission on recruitments. So, like, yeah, there is a fair amount of accommodation. Like, there are areas where you can't work certain positions if you have certain disabilities. For instance, if you're colorblind, I'm sorry, but you're never going to be able to fly an F-22. I know, it sucks. You got born colorblind, you can exist throughout life 99.9% of the time without any issues, but you'll never be allowed to fly an F-22. That is an example of where you might be limited, but outright denial of any ability to serve for something as simple as minor anxiety or a crooked toe is not real. I'm pretty certain that is. Also, to be very clear, all those negative mental effects that Blair White's talking about, like, let's not ignore the elephant in the room. We all know the data that suggests a 75% increase in the mental stability of trans youth just by having a single person in their life who is supportive and validating of their identity. It's even higher, up into the 90% range, if it's a parent or family member, and not just, like, a friend or like, a family friend or something. So Blair White should be, especially as a trans person herself, extremely familiar with the fact that the reason trans people experience, more often than not, heightened mental stress is because of a lack of acceptance and support, which is exactly what she is advocating for.
Second, but if they don't have...
If you make the problem, then you can pretend like the problem was justification to create it in the first place. It would get fucking stomped by a leftist veteran in this conversation. I'm curious, do we have any veterans in chat today? It's surprising how often we do. There's a good chance we do right now. Like, I feel like everything I've said in response to her has been correct, but I feel like a leftist or liberal veteran would be able to fucking stomp her, because she's clearly just making shit up. Oh, are you a veteran? Kuro Hisaki? Oh, Roger Baker, are you? See what I'm talking about, guys? It's surprising. I'm pretty sure most of what she's been saying is just blatantly false. Because, like, you have to think about it logically as well. Because don't most people who've been deployed overseas have to get a round of, like, many rounds of vaccines? Like, if you go to Afghanistan, back when we were there, you have to get tuberculosis shots. Because tuberculosis outbreaks happen all over the place. So, like, you gotta get regular, like, checkups and get, like, you gotta get, like, upped on your meds, you gotta get vaccinated, and you gotta get revaxxed and boosted. Like all this shit she's saying about trans people not having access to medical care while they're deployed is ridiculous. Yeah? Okay, so there's several people in chat who say they're veterans and say that I'm right about this, so Blair's full of shit. And they would probably stomp... They're definitely spitting facts, but this is the kind of, like, presentation and rhetoric. I know you guys are all saying, oh my god, base, but, like, everybody who's in the middle of the road and undecided on this issue just sided with Blair White after seeing that outburst. Like, once again, I feel like the left has receded into completely forgetting why optics matter, why rhetoric matters. Unfortunately, the left's optics have been so bad for so long now, it's like, I guess just assumed to be the standard, like, I'm not saying we should, like, punish, but we certainly shouldn't encourage that way of arguing. The hyper-emotional, like, actively losing control of, like, your voice and getting loud and, like, really arguing with emotion and saying, how dare you, shame on you, like, that is just not... Like, if you're gonna do a debate with a famous multi-million subscriber conservative pundit, you gotta avoid arguments like that. That's all I'm saying. Anything that has to do with being trans, by the way. Have you ever noticed that? Like, they never make this argument about removing a kidney for, like, a kidney transplant. Like, you know how kids can consent to, like, donating a kidney to, like, a dying parent if they have matching kidneys? Or, like, a parent, if their child goes into, like, sepsis because their appendix bursts in the middle of the night, the parent can then consent to having the child's appendix removed. Same goes for, like, their gallbladder if that bursts, so they get really bad gallstones. Or in the case of, like, foreskin, if it's, like, you know, newborn son, a lot of parents in America just go ahead and snip the foreskin off. There's, like, 60% of the tip of the dick's nerve endings gone in the blink of an eye. You know, like, nobody actually believes this except about trans people. Like, this argument sounds plausible on its face, like, why would we ever let this happen? But we all agree doctors know better on those issues. I actually disagree on the circumcision thing, actually. But, like, we all decided, like, okay, doctors know better when it comes to these surgeries that do involve removing body parts from children in a surgical setting and context, and no one freaks out about it, because no one actually believes that children can't consent to medical procedures. Like, at the end of the day, medical procedures are medical procedures. They're, like, if there is a likelihood of death, if it's not performed, which transphobes love to bring up the trans suicide rates. They know there's a risk of death. Yeah. If they don't get their procedure, if doctors recommend that they get that procedure, then I think it's fine. I don't believe there's, like, a flat answer, should minors get this surgery? It's like, of course, probably not. Generally, but if there is a situation where a bunch of doctors agree it should happen, then yeah. I agree with the doctor. No 12-year-olds getting top or bottom surgery. That has not happened even one time.
Really talking about here.
Anyone
because
on
the thing is, when we talk about detransitioners or whatnot, all I hear is...
My favorite is when these people, like, self-report how little research, like, basic research they've done on the issue, is when they say putting 10-year-olds on hormone blockers, or putting 8-year-olds on hormone blockers. Like, they'll mention putting a really, really young kid on hormone blockers or a really, really young kid on hormones. And that right there is when you know they genuinely couldn't even name an example, because that doesn't happen. You would never put an 8 or a 10-year-old on hormone blockers or hormones because A, hormone blockers are for blocking puberty. They're puberty blockers. And hormones themselves are meant to be administered during the puberty cycle and post-puberty. So you would never give a prepubescent child puberty blockers or hormones. You would never do that. So all these chuds that like to use that as an example are just making that shit up. They either heard it from someone else and are now repeating it, or made it up and pulled it out of their own ass.
There's a lot of regret.
Doesn't even believe that. Like, Blair White doesn't even believe that take. Here's where we'll finish this off. I'm going to show you guys a bit of a palate cleanser that'll make you feel better after all of that. Don't worry, you're going to like this. So, Blair White likes to talk about how her platform has always been about being a resource for trans people. But why is it that every couple years, up until recently when she's fully embraced the grift and now there's no need to do this, but why is it that all these years Blair White has had to apologize like this for spreading lies that ended up causing a trans person to receive immense amounts of harassment? Like, why has she had to keep doing this?
Okay, so this is a video that I really did not expect to ever make. Ever. But those are always the most interesting ones, right? And I know that it's futile, but I really ask that for those of you who are going to comment something angry or tweet about this or write about this on your websites, that you please just watch the video in its entirety with an open mind, because I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of assumptions made about what I'm going to say in this.
Okay, you want to see the bits where she's crying. Here we go. Here, we're getting there.
Attacking who Riley was as a person. I shouldn't have done that. And what I'm going to say next is probably going to shock you guys, because it shocked me. And this is the part that really put things into perspective for me. I've only been on hormones a year longer than Riley. Riley's getting her first transition-specific surgery this month. So am I. We are basically at the same point in our transition, yet the internet and myself have participated in this like false juxtaposition between me and Riley, that I was a real trans person. Riley was a fake trans person. And the truth is, we're almost at the exact same point in our transition. And I'm someone who's had my transition picked apart online. There have been Reddit threads and 4chan threads with hundreds of comments on it of people trying to prove that I'm not trans because I haven't done this or that, or, you know, digging up my old pictures. And, you know, I'm a strong person, I'm a happy person, but to sit here and pretend like it doesn't affect me at all would just be a lie. So the thought that this entire time I've done that exact same thing to someone else and pushed that off on someone else fucks with me. And I'm fucking sorry. From my perspective, knowing what it takes to transition, the tens of thousands of dollars it takes to save up for these surgeries, to take that plunge and to step into that is difficult. And to know that this is getting kind of hard to film, and I'm fucking frustrated. Having gone through that myself and knowing that Riley went through that, and that during the process of Riley doing that, Riley had this trans person on YouTube making videos saying some of the things that I said, is really messing with me, and I feel really fucking bad. You know, this whole thing has really taught me a lesson that I should really try to stick to ideas, opinions, policy, rather than like trying to get in someone's head and like make judgments about something that's so personal and so nuanced. Like,
really?
I will say in this moment, Riley, I apologize. I'm genuinely, from my core, sorry. Being catty and bitchy and funny is great, but sometimes things just cross the line. And on several occasions, I crossed the line. And I'm sorry. So that's about it, guys. I'm sorry.
So fucking fake. She's so fake, dude. She's so fake. Like, you guys... Ah, man. Blaire White is one of my favorite people to cover because she really is like a black hole of morality. She's pure evil, and she's so popular and has remained so popular for so long. It's like, the day she experiences her downfall will be one of my favorite days ever. Up there with the release of Hightail. Now hey, if you ended up enjoying this video and you want to drop some support on it, let me know you liked it, then consider leaving a thumbs up and subscribe and ring the bell icon if you haven't already, if you're new here. And of course, if you want to, you know, boost the video in the algorithm, leave a comment as well. If you don't know what to say, just say, Xandering my haul. I appreciate it a ton. Thank you to all of you for watching. Join my Discord, and hopefully I'll see you again in the next one.